Hey YouTube, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And today I want to talk about the companies or the knives that you should avoid buying if you want to improve your chances of getting a good knife, okay? Now, let me say a couple of things by way of introduction. Number first, if you own one of these knives and it's performed really well for you, that is spectacular, right? I'm not arguing that every single knife made by any company or every model that I may bring up is bad. I'm just saying most of the time this is something to avoid if you want to improve your chances of getting a good knife. So maybe you've got, you know, an MTech knife there on the list and it's the best knife you've ever had and it's just phenomenal. Hey, that's great. I'm glad you got a good one, but the reality is most of them are not going to perform that well. Number two, this is not in any way a criticism of budget knives or people who are only interested in buying budget knives. Just to make that perfectly clear, down below I will link in the description box, I'll put a link to my video of the top budget knives that are out there, so that if you're looking to get a good knife on a budget, you'll have some recommendations along those lines. Okay, so those are the two things that I want to bring up. First of all, number three, I want to ask you guys to help me out a little bit with a video that's coming up, and that is I'd like to do the top 5 or top 10, depending on how the research goes, knives or knife makers that are embroiled in controversy. So this could be a company, it could be an individual, it could be a knife model, or it could be a custom knife maker. I'd love to get some of your feedback on that. Please don't give me, just say, hey, these guys tend to attract controversy. That's all we want for now. And if necessary, when the video comes, we will talk about taking sides on those various issues. So now that I've got those things out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. The first knife company that I want to pick on here a little bit and warn you to avoid is Tack Force. Okay, Tack Force has a bunch of knives out there. You know, the front page of Amazon is filled with them. You'll find them in gas stations. You'll find them on profit strips in different places. They're just not well made, okay? I've had a few. I've been given a few by people who say, hey, can you sharpen this for me? Or something's wrong with it. Can you fix it for me? And usually I say, yeah, what's wrong with it is the knife itself. You need to get a different one. Now again, I'm not saying, someone watching this may have a Tack Force and think it's the greatest thing ever made. And if that's you, that's great. All I'm saying is that by and large, these are not high quality, high performance tools, okay? They're kind of junky. Next, MTech Extreme. Now again, this is a company that's very closely related to Tack Force. There are a few other companies that I'm not going to bring up, but these two are the biggest names in cheap knives. Again, are there good ones out there? Probably. Have I seen a lot of them? No, not really. But I'm sure somewhere out there there's an MTech that holds an edge like crazy, that has a super strong lockup, that is, nicer materials and fit and finish is phenomenal. I'm sure somewhere out there. But for the vast majority of those knives, it's not going to be the case, okay? So MTech is the other company to avoid. And as you kind of go through, you'll get a flavor. If you look at the Tack Force knives and the MTech knives, you'll get a flavor for what these knives are. And then you'll know if you see it under another brand, it's still probably worth avoiding. Okay, number 3, knives branded with gun company names. Okay, now there are some glaring exceptions. Hogue knives are phenomenal, okay? But outside of that, there are a lot of companies. I'm going to pick on Winchester, but that's only because that just happened to be a picture I saw. There are tons of knives out there that are marketed with a particular gun manufacturer, and usually what they are is just a pretty poor attempt at making money based on a name that's already been established. I would say maybe Ruger, it would be another example with the CRKT collaboration. Those are probably decently made knives. CRKT is not the best maker out there, but generally they do a pretty good job. But otherwise, knives branded with gun logos are probably not going to be a good option. As I said, there are exemptions from that. Now, another thing to kind of watch out for is knives branded with tool company logos. Okay, DeWalt makes great tools. A lot of my power tools are DeWalt, and I'm very impressed with them. However, I've seen some DeWalt knives hanging on profit strips in Home Depot, and I would not buy one, okay? Same with Milwaukee and a few other Mastercraft and Benchmark, I think is Sears' brand, and there's another brand associated with Home Hardware. You know, those are knives that, again, are going to be cheaply made. They're not going to have good steel. They're not going to have good fit and finish or quality control. It's just a weak attempt at building in some extra profit by having someone who went in to buy a hammer see the knife on a profit strip and go, hey, I could use a new knife, and pull it off. Now, again, there may be exceptions, and I'm sure there's somebody out there with a DeWalt knife that's just phenomenal, but by and large, that is not going to be the case. All right, number 5, knives with poor steel. Okay, 3 CR13, 4 CR13, 2 CR. I've seen, you'll see anything that's not 8 CR13 or 9 CR is not going to be that great. They're all Chinese steels, but some of them are just really, really bad. Surgical steel, okay, is probably worth avoiding. 420HC, unless it's extremely well heat treated, is probably worth avoiding as well. So steels that are just not good, and as I said, heat treat does make a difference in some of these, but in some of them, if it's 2 CR13 MOV, it's not going to be good, okay? It doesn't matter how well it's heat treated. You're going to have a hard time getting that thing to hold an edge. Now, it'll be easy to sharpen, but you'll just have to do it every 15 minutes. Okay, also unknown steels. If a knife doesn't tell you the kind of steel that the blade is made out of, there's usually a reason for that, and that is they don't want you to know it's made from crappy steel, okay? So those are all things to avoid. Knives that are made out of good steel are usually proud of that fact and display it pretty prominently. There could be some exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, that's going to be one to watch out for. Number 6 is one that is truly sad to me, the SOG Aegis. This knife is such a cool knife. The design is awesome. The blade shape is awesome. The ergonomics are awesome. The lock stinks. They all have blade play. They're not, anyway, so they're the fake arc lock from SOG. It's I'm going to call it the arcish lock. I think maybe sometimes they call it it's a style of piston lock. They are terrible. I've rarely seen one that didn't have blade play. And I've even sent some back to SOG to reduce the blade play, and they've come back still having blade play. Not as bad, but still there. I'm pretty sure this lock cannot be made to be solid. And that's truly sad because some of the designs that have it are amazing designs. The Aegis stands out to me because I really, really like the SOG Aegis in terms of its design and ergonomics and blade shape, but then it has up and down blade play, which drives me absolutely bananas. So that's one to avoid, along with pretty much any SOG that has the fake arc lock. Number 7, kit knives. These are knives where it's sold in a kit with a tactical pen and a flashlight and a headlamp and a knife, okay? Or, it comes in a wooden box. Sometimes they look really nice. You'll see them around at Christmas time where it's a knife and a multi-tool and something else. There are some rare good ones, okay? Kershaw has a couple out there that are not that bad, and probably CRKT does as well. Excuse me. But generally speaking, these are going to be knives to avoid. Again, there could be some good ones out there, and maybe you've got one and that's awesome for you, but usually not good. Next on the list, number 8 is Buck knives. And Buck had this amazing stellar reputation. This, of course, is the Buck 830 Marksman with the S35 VN steel. You can see that I have reprofiled it. I'm going to reprofile it once more before I make the follow-up video on this. I took it to 25 degrees and I'm going to take it to 20 degrees. The steel will handle it. Yeah, it'll look a little odd, but that's fine. So Buck just tends to have ongoing issues with quality control and fit and finish. Often their blades are not centered well, and there are other issues. So the sad thing is they've got some really cool designs. This is a great example. The Buck Vantage series are really good. The Buck 830, the standard in aluminum, is really good. but then for some reason they just can't be consistent with that level of quality, and it would be really nice to see them do so. Next up is a company that sometimes gets a lot of flack, and I'm not going to be as harsh that I've been with some of the others, but Gerber. Gerber is a company that relies more on marketing than on quality, and that's frustrating to me. Why don't you just make good stuff and let your quality speak for itself, and people will buy it? Right now they have such a big name, and most people walking into a department store, a Canadian Tire or a Walmart or something like that to buy a knife, they're thinking of a Gerber. And this, I've got this Gerber Paraframe, okay, really, really well known knife. A lot of people carry these. It does have serrations. It does have horrible steel that won't hold an edge at all. This one literally fell apart on me. You can see the thumb stud fell out. The pocket clip has fallen off more than once. After that started happening, I threw it in a drawer. So it's been sitting in the bottom of a drawer for a long time. But it actually fell apart on me, which is pretty sad. And it's because Gerber depends more on their brand than on their quality to sell knives, and that's a little frustrating. Now, I'm not saying that every Gerber is bad. There are some good ones that I'm aware of, and if you watch, Wrangler Star has a video where he goes and visits Gerber. They feature some decent knives on that video. Finally, Novelty Knives. All right, so these are knives, as you can see there, they've got cartoon characters on them, or they're shaped like a gun or a fish or a bear or something else like that. Sometimes they have a flashlight attached or some other weird combination of tools attached. And again, generally, they're not going to be very good. And really, this is a broader rule. Multi-tools that aren't Anyway, multi-tools is a scary thing. There are a lot of really crappy ones out there. We won't get into it here, but be overly zealous in watching what you're buying when you're buying multi-tools. Let's get back to what I'm saying. Novelty knives, knives shaped like guns and horses and unicorns and fish and all that kind of stuff, or knives that have weird things attached to them that are clearly just novelty items. Usually that's something to avoid unless you are a collector of that kind of sort of, markety cultural stuff. Okay, if that's your thing, that's a different story and you kind of know what you're doing. But if you're buying something to be a useful tool, that's probably something to avoid. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to comment below with some of the companies you know of that are embroiled in some controversy. I'd like to make a video about that coming up. And also let me know if you've got some names that you would add to this list. Knives that, companies that just consistently seem to make crappy stuff. Okay, and maybe that will be a warning to somebody else out there. If you're a knife company that's watching this and you're upset because I named your name in this video, one, I've been clear over and over again that not every single knife made by a given company is bad, but there are some issues that certain companies have. And really, if you make better knives, then maybe next year when I make a video about the top 10 budget knives or the top 10 most improved companies, you'll be in that video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will talk to you soon.